Introduction. Allow me to introduce myself. I am Iveron, captain of the worst suicide mission the Galactic Council's history and the only Marine of the Holy Emperor. I was awakened on a minor planet after a mislaunched warp jump. Somehow, I was alone on the ship after I woke up. Every other Marine was gone. Hundreds of years have gone by till some other alien folks found me there and took me to their council. In front of the council, they had many questions, but after every question I answered, they had even more. "What are you?" asked one who looks like a custodes. "Brother, I told you everything I know. Where do you came from? How does your ship have such capabilities? Answer me," said some angry-looking bird. "Brother, I swear to the Holy Emperor I tell no lie. I am Captain Iveron, a loyal servant of the Holy Emperor, and with the same questioning and same answers, years have gone by. Some of the council members have changed. Some of them died, but I was all the same. Just like my arrival was a couple of days ago. After the older ones had perished, they did not know what to do with me or did not want to know. So they gave the missions no one else wanted. At that point, I became a captain once again, and I fought war after war, never the same. Never have I seen such folks fighting that many wars in such a brief time. In the blink of an eye, there have been 500 years past. I saw how these people grew and prospered, but peace was never a long-lived thing here. Final report. Memento as I draft this report, there is a war in full rage out there. I cannot remember when or why it started, and most of the folks I know cannot remember either. But to get some idea, it should be around 500 SGY, Standard Galactic Year. If I remember correctly, there was a princess who did not want to get married and fled from it, but I am not sure, maybe some other stupid reason. Who really cares anyway? The reason for this report is that my ship got a really big hole in it, and I am not sure if we can leave this planet. The nearest ally is about 2,000 LY away, and on the planet's surface there are thousands of hostile oversized bugs. At this moment, I am on Col 8AS, a massive moon. My ship and my crew, nearly all lost. We are a handful left. There is not much we can do. We cannot wait for help forever. We cannot repair the ship or take the enemy out. We are stranded on a moon in the middle of enemy territory. You may ask, how did we get here? That is a fine question, and I know the answer. The High Command of the Intergalactic Union of Military and Defense got together, and here is the beginning of our situation. Those officers who have never seen a war, hell not even, a fight at the dinner table, hold the highest ranks in the galaxy. They got there through nepotism most of the time. Their fathers died, and they inherited the position. And these people decided that 400 soldiers were more than enough for a planetary invasion on the enemy's home planet. Howkey. See how it went. 388 dead before we could even reach the planet. What planet? Not even the system. They ordered 400 of the youngest recruits for the job so they could earn their place in history. As I heard about it, I joined on my own. Others followed my lead. Veterans, fathers, those unwilling to watch boys die for a council's folly. Maybe that was the idea from the start. In the end, there were just 9 young Kornaks on the ship, and I have the utmost respect for those men. They chose to come. They are real men, much more like those morons in the capital. End of the report. May our deaths not be forgotten. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the wreck of the ship. My crew sat in silence, their faces pale, their eyes distant. They were writing to their families, their loved ones, leaving behind some trace of their existence. But I could not help but notice the despair in their eyes, the same despair I had seen countless times before. I prayed that one day I would have the chance to avenge their names, but there was no time for me to give in to despair. I stood up and walked toward the bridge. Normally, it is a place of chaos and noise, but now, silence. The ship's halls were eerily quiet. I passed through the launch bay, completely destroyed, and made my way toward the radio room. Inside, I found them. Cadet Jokand and Cadet Ken Maxey, I was ready to offer them something, anything to hold on to when everything else was falling apart. "Captain Iveron," Jocan called out. "I came to see you, boys," I said. "I thought you needed some—" "Captain," Jocan cut me off mid-sentence. "I think we did it." "What?" I asked, dread crawling up my spine, unsure of what he was about to say. "We rebuilt a radio," Jocan continued, almost proudly. "It's not like the original, but it should work on older frequencies. Maybe we can call a nearby planet for evacuation." I was a soldier longer than their bloodline can reach back, and yet here were two young soldiers, barely passing the age limit, and instead of succumbing to despair or fear, they had rebuilt a radio. We were dead at this point. I know that. They had to know that too. So why? "Cadet Jokand." "Cadet Conmaxi," I said, my voice a rare mixture of pride and disbelief. "I believe you've earned more than just my respect. As of now, by my authority as captain of this godforsaken mission and marine of the Holy Emperor, I hereby grant you battlefield commission. You are no longer cadets, you are officers of the line, and you may address me simply as Iveron." "Marine of the Holy Emperor," Jocan muttered, giving Conmaxi a confused look. They had never heard of the Holy Emperor or what it meant to be an ultramarine. But at that moment, it did not matter. "Captain, why should we get this type of honor for doing our work?" Conmaxi asked, still struggling to grasp the significance. And here I understood, they were the real deal. True soldiers, one of a kind. They just could not stop impressing me. "What did I tell you, Officer Conmaxi?" I replied. "As of now, I am Iveron for both of you, understand?" They nodded in unison. "Yes, Sir Iveron," they said, their voices clear and audible. "That wasn't so hard, was it?" I muttered, before returning to the topic at hand. "So, tell me, who do we call? Do we know where we are? And who can we trust?" "We got some data from the archives," Jocan replied, his voice steady despite the uncertainty. "Our calculations suggest we are somewhere near the quarantine sector, in a place called Orion Bridge." He paused, and the air between us seemed to thicken. "But, Captain, we also picked up some strange radio signals. We tried to run them through the universal translator, but it's nothing we've ever encountered." The name Orion Bridge echoed in my mind like a ghost from the past. Quarantine zone. Orion. A language that could not be recognized. I snaped back to myself, not letting memories flood my mind. "We are done," I said, with a long exhale. "I know exactly where we are." Conmaxi and Jocan gave a despair look. For a couple of 100 years ago, there was an invasion from the depth of space. Tyranids came from nothing, evolving with every planet they sieged, and now we are in middle of it. We are at Sector Laniakia, the place of the last great war. "Tyranids?" Jocan asked. "What are the Tyranids, sir? I never heard of them." "Right, Jocan. You know them just with another name. You call them Magnetiformis insectoideus. If I am right, it means big, ugly bugs. Quite a precise description if you ask me. After this revelation, I would be not surprised when they would give up. But who am I to think that they would give up after all that, Sir Iveron?" Jocan spoke. "How can you be so certain that we have no chance? And if I'm allowed to ask, how can you know where this war took place? No one in the capital knows what went down there. There was not a single ship who returned, and it was 450 years ago." "Those are good questions, Jocan," I said with dread. "Maybe under these circumstances I am allowed to tell you. The condensed version is, we lost it big time. We do not had any intel or plan. We brought everything we had, planet crackers, bioweapons, orbital railguns, everything we had. But what use it has when we do not know what we should shoot at? We lost more than half of our military power before we learned how they look or how many variants there are. And with every planet there was a new one. As I am telling the events of history for both, I saw their faces go through emotions of every kind. It was about 3 cycles after the war began that we were ordered to destroy every infested planet. And we did. 7612 planets were destroyed, some were glassed from orbit, other where cracked and some smashed together. What we did not consider at that time is how those bugs moved from planet to another planet. We later learned that they had a method to move WIT meteoroids. We just made their jobs much easier. We blasted millions of small, infested fragments into space. After the cleansing operations from the 76,000 soldier 2412 came back. After every sentence I saw that they had many questions. We were ordered to never mention this event to anyone. You know how the Council possibly destroyed the entry galaxy? After that, the Council behind closed doors explained this are of the galaxy for a quarantine zone, and we all hoped that we could forget about it. I saw how small, sweet pearls appear on their forehead and how their hand rambled. Kenmaxi was the first to speak. Sir, you telling us that the true mission was to see if there are bugs left in this sector? Every couple of decades, the Council send out a small vessel with some soldier to overtake a rebellious planet or help to clean after the war in this sector. Those planets only exist on paper. If we reach our destiny and we can make it back without reporting about the bugs, the sector is clear. We get some metal and it's done. If we did not make it back, the quarantine zone stayed closed. Jokin nearly passed out from distress I cannot understand. Captain, Kenmaxi put his hand on Jokin's shoulder and told him to breathe at some manageable speed. Kenmaxi, who was by himself, had to fight the urge to just break, asked me, "What is the plan, Captain?" At this point, I have no plan. We do everything we can, so let us make a call. Maybe the gods are with us. There was some time before the two were ready to work on the radio again. 10 days have been gone, and we received a signal that read, CS failing star. On the way. We were amazed by this, but we did not understand what is said. One thing was sure, someone out there knew where we are, and maybe there can send us help. We had to just hold out for that. 7 more days, and one of the EA recruits starts screaming from the deck. Captain Iver and the bugs are coming in our way. I ran up to viewport and he was right. A dozen Tyranids, 2 of Titan class, were about 900 units away. I grabbed my sword and bolt gun stood at the hole on the ship. Everyone, this is an order. Barricade yourself in the radio room, now. So this is how I going. Thought in my head. In the radio room. They are closing in rapidly, Jokin said. What does the captain think of himself? Never can he defeat those things alone. Kenmaxi cried out. Are you sure about that? Asked an old soldier. I heard many things about Captain Iveron, but not once have I heard about him losing. But this is just, Kenmaxi tried to explain. Hear me out, young one. The old soldier spoke. Have you ever thought about the captain? You can see, right? He does not like us. Not even nearly. He is at least 2 times the size of us. He fights completely different than we. And the best he is alive for at least 550 years. He speaks about some interesting things like his emperor and his marines and some holy terra. He is different in many ways. Loud stomping and a war cry of the captain shocked the hall. For the emperor! Through the cameras, the crew saw everything. They were ready to go out there and die with their captain. Back on the ship, you filthy Tyranids praise our emperor for the glory to allowing you to fall by my hands. One after the other ripped apart. Cut to pieces or stomped in the ground, the captain held his position, fought with a fury of a 100-man. Not a single Tyranid should be left alive. But he cannot hold forever. His bolt guns slowly run out of munition, his blade become dull, his movement becomes slower. There was not much more in him. He fought of dozens of them without a second of pause. He just ripped one in half and fell to his knee. Watching the horizon, he saw there are more on the way. For the Emperor! If these were to be my last words, I could not have chosen better ones. With his last strength gave a last view of the sky, and there he saw drop pods, many of them. Brothers, how long it has been. Thought in myself, as I lost my consciousness. In the radio room, everyone saw how the captain fought and now how he is lying in the dust out there. Impossible, Jokin muttered. What do we do now? The captain is down, and we are helpless without him. Let us bring him in. The next wave is far away, said the old soldier. Kenmaxi stayed behind, sending their coordinates out in space. At the very same moment as the captain was in the ship, again the radio came to life. SES failing star in orbit. All Helldivers to Hell pods, we are going in. Thanks for reading it. It was my first time writing for a publicum. I used ChatGPT for translation. Enjoy another Amazing story. Hello everyone, and welcome to today's discussion. Let me start off with a simple question. Have any of you ever heard of humans? Lin lots we pow. Of no's in chat here, not a single yes, so I guess that settles that. Let me explain to you then what humans are. In a few short words, humans are art. They are a rare species in the galaxy, as they don't really focus on expansion, and they don't expand to a new system until they are done with their great works in each previous one. Each system they touch is like a physical manifestation of art itself, the sculptures, the sounds, the way they manipulate the light of the very star as it flows across the system. I'll tell you all more about human systems later, but I first need to explain that they weren't always like this. In fact, the humans used to be a level 9 warlike species. They killed each other in the millions, the billions even. They would hate one another for no other reason than being different colors. Humanity used to make weapons both biological and mechanical that would make the Huvar shudder in sheer horror. As humanity aged, though, change began to occur. In the 2030s, when a large nation known as Russia collapsed from recent wars that it started in the first place, is when it all began. With the fall of Russia, a lot of land was split up between many nations, least of all was one called the United States. This country took over the entire eastern coast of the previous Russia, and this placed them closer to both enemies as well as allies. The other countries that took over the Russian state were mostly allies with the exceptions of China, whose relationship with the United States was tenuous at best. Being this close to allies helped relations and allowed this United States to give better aid and help regulate the world in an even more hands-on way than before. This led to a cascade effect where slowly but surely these nations got a taste of something called American culture, as it was now much closer than ever before. Freedom of speech, freedom of expression, and a lifestyle that most had never been able to experience. What used to be a continent away was now only a single train away. The American culture spread like a virus. It was unbelievably infectious, and one by one, other countries fell under their umbrella. It took another 200 years after this for the planet to fully unify, but it did under the United Earth States. As this was slowly happening, technology grew at an incredible rate. Shortly before unification, however, was a collapse of their entire capitalist-based society. The working class was unable to find jobs, the higher class weren't hiring, and robots took over all the labor. Companies at the time sought to achieve a lower and lower bottom line of profit, and in pursuing it they ended up crashing the entire market. With nobody to work, nobody was making money to buy things with. As you can imagine, this led to collapse and revolt rather quickly, but from the ashes arose an entirely new system. It took aspects from many other types of systems, and by the end of it there were computer intelligence leaders. Nobody after this went without food, shelter, education, or even healing. Humans didn't need to work anymore, but places of work were kept open to them. Humanity, as it turned out, would slowly go mad without hobbies or something to keep their hands busy. Eventually, this led to all of them pursuing their passions. With computer intelligence leaders, it made it easier. The intelligent could submit design and theory to the computer intelligences. The crafters could request resources. The chefs could open restaurants. Nobody was stopped from doing what they wanted, unless they used it for crime, of course. Eventually, everybody turned to art, but not normal art. Their skyscrapers and cities turned into gleaming art pieces that would have rainbows cover them during sunny days. The water from rain would be collected on rainy days, and when seen from above, the entire city had a gleaming pattern of waterways that reflected the light into a myriad of patterns that seemed like holograms. Then they turned to their flesh. They saw that their bodies were weak and mortal and didn't like that, so they began to change them. Their flesh gave way to metals and polymers, and they could use their very bodies to create art the likes of which only they can produce. Now that that small history lesson is done, let me tell you about a human-owned system that I had the blessing of 10 lifetimes to go and visit. When I arrived in the system they call Alpha Centauri, my breath caught, and I was at a complete loss for words. The system as a whole upon entry looked like something out of a fairy tale. I was overwhelmed with emotion and struggled not to weep at it all. They had a partial Dyson swarm that not only collected light for power but directed it around the system in controlled ways. They had ice belts around moons and between worlds that would refract the light from their star in intense rainbow pathways that their ships would use as guides to travel inside of the system. These ships would have ion and fusion trails that would then further interact with the light given by these rainbows in ways that made colors I have no words to describe. The colors themselves, when viewed through these trails, seemed to tangibly radiate emotions that would deeply affect me. The reds made me feel such rage and hate that I wanted to rip something limb from limb. The blues made me feel sadness and emotional pains at depths I didn't know I could reach. The yellows brought such joy and happiness that nothing seemed that it could ever go wrong in that moment. The pinks made me feel such a deep sense of love that I failed to grasp it now. When viewed as you enter the human systems all at once, the emotions you feel are intense, all-consuming and varied. But as you travel deeper into the system, you find that each planet itself has been meticulously sculpted and crafted into a work of art. When looking at the worlds, each coded in colors, each one seemed to represent a concept. Red was no longer rage, but war and violence. The blues were no longer just sadness, but grief and mourning. The yellows were no longer just joy, but the feeling of being young again, of being a child, in an innocent world where everything is good. Pink was no longer love, but passion and drive that could motivate any to continue with their dreams, no matter how futile it would seem. Each of these worlds would be capable of hosting life easily once the humans were done transforming them, and yet this was not the end of it. Through means I am utterly incapable of understanding, the humans are able to make pulsing spacetime visible. The point where they warp into the system from other systems is just above the system star, and this sends out waves of spacetime. These waves mix with and change all of these colors and patterns into forms and shades that I think go beyond our meager third dimension. Seeing them all dance in this wordless symphony, I felt like I had reached some state of enlightenment. I felt a sense of belonging and peace in my very soul that I had never known before. Even now, though I can recall the feeling deeply and center myself around it, I cannot feel it anymore in its whole. It is something only one who has experienced personally can truly appreciate, let alone understand. Though I am saddened that humanity has strictly forbidden entry to their home system, as the last time they let any entity view it, it literally changed their soul. I'm sure everyone can remember the all-devouring nanite machine plague from just 15 years ago suddenly vanishing. Well, it was the humans. As it turns out, the machine plague was a sentient hive mind, and enough of the nanites found themselves in the human home system to see this art. For their number to grow large enough to process the arts and send the information back through the hive mind, they had to consume only a single asteroid. The machine mind felt that even destroying and consuming a single asteroid of something of such scope and magnitude was objectively wrong. Then, when the nanites gathered there, to send an apology, yes, an apology from the all-devouring machine plague. For devouring, to the humans, something in the machines changed entirely. The humans say that the machines simply found their soul, when upon seeing their works it was shaken free of its mechanical restraints of logic. Now the nanite swarm is working, with humanity following its laws and tenets with a sort of reverence that belies belief. The machines had apparently wanted to begin transforming any systems they could get a hold of to states of art. The humans stopped them, however, and showed the machines that all life has a right to itself and to simply be as they are and as they wish to be. The machine swarm is now less of an all-devouring plague and more like a devout monk following diligently behind the humans to assist them in whatever way it possibly can. Humanity had tried to refuse them, but they begged and pleaded to be allowed to become a part of the human stellar nation. Now, each and every human has a small swarm of nanites that works with them, further enhancing their art. Though I cannot visit it, I've been told that their home system after they adopted the nanite swarm is such a force of beauty and presence that several intruders have actually directly ascended. This isn't even all of it either, their music. Have you ever heard a planet sing? An asteroid belt? A star? An entire solar system? The humans with their rainbow bridges and pulsing space-time have altered each world to produce sound when the image of the warp pulse is sent through the system. Warp systems apparently can convey the emotional state of the crew of whatever vessel is upon it. Some colors in the pulse will flare up, and others will dim. And these colors, as they pulse, dim, brighten, and shift, will play music the likes of which I know I may never hear again unless I go to another human system. Each world has its own symphony, and each world when looked at with others adds another layer. When all play in consort with their star like a conductor, the unity of worlds, asteroids, and stars into one system is indescribable. If you are ever in the presence of a human, and trust me, you will know by the raw beauty and emotional draw of their appearance. Please appreciate every moment of this presence, for humanity does not simply do art. Humanity is art, and truly, our galaxy is blessed to have them. End of story. Thanks for diving into this story with me. Don't miss out on the next one. Hit that subscribe button, give this video a big thumbs up, and drop a comment below with your thoughts. I'd love to hear what you think.